Welcome to the Recruitment Leadership podcast hosted by Alison Humphries. The Recruitment Leadership podcast is here to help those in the recruitment industry gain awareness and understanding on the hot topics faced by those in the business of hiring people. In each episode, Alison Humphries is joined by a fellow expert to offer professional knowledge, insight and advice on the biggest subjects affecting recruitment businesses. It's the podcast to listen to for recruitment business frontrunners seeking expert information from industry-leading advisors. Welcome to the Recruitment Leadership Podcast.
Good morning and welcome to the Recruitment Leadership Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Those of you who are regular subscribers will know that we've been doing a whole series on leadership in the recruitment industry, where I'm joined by friends and recruitment business owners who all have exceedingly different stories to tell. Anyone who suggests to you that all recruitment businesses do the same thing is talking rubbish, in my opinion. Anyway, I am today delighted to be joined by my friend and business owner, James Fowler. Welcome, James.
Hi, Alison. Thanks for inviting me to the podcast.
My pleasure. So, James has, get this, the bravery to have founded and run not one but two recruitment businesses. They are in completely different markets, and those businesses, just for reference, are Leaders in Care, which is in the health and social care market, and Fintelligent Search. Now, over the course of the last 2 years, and I think that's about how long I've been working with you. Is that right, James?
I think probably maybe sort of 6 months before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So 3 years.
So it's been exciting, hasn't it? There's never a dull moment.
Been a whirlwind of a ride, definitely.
Yeah. I think we've been through every colour of experience, and we're at now a position where both those businesses have grown with extraordinary success. There's a lot there that I'm sure people will want to hear about. And so just to give a very quick intro to your background, and then I'm going to ask you to position those businesses in a little bit more detail. James, your background before recruitment was actually in related, but it was actually in employability, wasn't it? So you were working in getting people back into work, yes?
Yeah, so I got into recruitment 12 years ago, but prior to that, I actually went to uni, got a first class degree in primary education, and then decided, going and teaching in school wasn't going to be for me, and actually moved into employability. So I was people who are long-term unemployed, don't have any qualifications. I was training them how to be employable, how to pass interviews, and also getting them maths and English qualifications. And my results as a tutor were better than the recruiters they had there at actually getting people back into work. So when they lost the contract, I was sort of shifted into another position, getting people who had disabilities and have been out of work for the long term sort of back into work. So had a bit of a background in employment, in sort of coaching people before getting into recruitment. But yeah, very, very much probably like a lot of your listeners, bit of a happy accident, falling into recruitment as so many people do, around about 12 years ago.
Right. And you had a very successful career learning the ropes, as it were, until you bravely established a business servicing the financial services industry in 2015, and then later Leaders in Care in 2017. So, James, obviously our listeners will all have their own experiences of the recruitment market. A lot of people are maybe unaware of the particular regulations and market conditions that affect those two sectors that you work in. So could you just start by giving us the headline points, scene setting, if you will, for Leaders in Care and then for Fintelligent Search about the market?
Yeah, sure thing. So, Leaders in Care operates within healthcare, but more distinctly, healthcare really means kind of everything sort of nurse upwards. So we've got a team that places clinical people, nurse upwards. We've got a team that does senior appointments and management roles within the healthcare industry. We've recently, a year ago, started a medtech division. So there's an enormous amount of opportunity within that space, internationally as well as in this country, and we've also got a contract social work division, which is, all these sort of markets are highly regulated. I guess sort of a particular opportunity which we have spotted and formed our model around on the social work side is, you'll know yourself, Alison, most agencies that supply social workers need to be signed up to MSPs, where all the councils have pulled together their buying power and really kind of pushed down the rates to extremely kind of low margins. Our model is, we don't sign up to the MSPs. We go directly to the councils and identify and fill those roles that the agencies on the MSPs can't fill. And we do that efficiently, quickly, but for much higher margins. Particularly within that area, and part of this is, from problems going a long way back, but also I think the pandemic has massively kind of increased them. But the need for sort of social workers within children's services is just growing sort of exponentially.
Absolutely right. So even within the Leaders in Care business, what we've got here is private sector clients, private hospitals and so forth, public sector clients for your social work. You're working via master service providers for some of it, or rather not working via them, but working in a market where they're very dominant, and directly, and you're doing perm and temporary and contract. So it's a complex business, isn't it? I think it's easy to imagine if we say healthcare, it's one thing. It's absolutely not.
In addition to that, we recently made it even more complex by launching in the US. So we've got a couple of people out in the US who do a lot more work through MSPs as well as direct with clients. But yeah, that was a complete education, understanding the rules, regulations, and sort of how business is done out there when we were planning the launch.
Yeah. And of course, the US healthcare market is private, and so it's insurers and other types of providers out there as well. So for scale, Leaders in Care, it now encompasses how many staff?
Yeah, so I think when we first started working together, sort of 2.5 years ago, there was about 8 of us, and as of today, because we just had an offer accepted, there's 28, and hopefully we should have a couple more offers accepted before the days out, which would take us up to 30.
That's great. Okay, so listeners will be intrigued as to how that growth's been achieved, and we're going to come back to that in just a moment. But quick scene set about the markets you service in Fintelligent, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fintelligent, we predominantly work within financial services, senior finance, which is sort of anything sort of mid to senior, typically sort of roles 50k upwards within finance departments, with a particular bias towards private equity backed businesses where naturally there's a lot of change, a lot of opportunity in that market at the moment, sort of post pandemic, because there's a lot of PE houses with lots of money that they want to invest and grow businesses. And then also another kind of new division which we started post-pandemic along with senior finance is legal. So that's private practice, all centred around the City of London, and placing sort of elite lawyers into US law firms, Magic Circle, Silver Circle firms, very much kind of the best lawyers into the best firms. Sort of challenges and opportunities, I guess, with that market. We really kind of reinvented sort of Fintelligent, as we'll probably get onto. It's not always been quite the business it is today. And coming out of the pandemic, looking to do things very differently, break into new markets with new people I'd not worked with before. It's taken a little bit of time, but now we're in a stage where the business is probably more profitable than it's that it's ever been. With less people.
Okay. And how many people are then in Fintelligent now, James?
So we have 10 currently. Fintelligent, although the business has been going sort of 7 years, there's been an awful lot of change during that time. And sort of post first lockdown, there was 4 of us. So, we've grown sort of probably in the past sort of year and a half from sort of 4 to 10, and our plans to grow the business to 28 staff over the next 3 years.
And it's not just been a recovery, has it? It's been a complete reinvention of that business. So I'd like to talk now about the bumpy ride that's been the last 2 years. So if I could ask you first to reflect on, sort of the key events that happened, and then what I'd like to move on to is how that has honed your skills as a leader or crystallized what your deepest values as a leader are. So the key events, if you will.
Yeah, okay. So as everyone's probably aware by now, there was a global pandemic sometime in 2020 that that we've all had to navigate through, and I'm sure we've all got our own our own kind of stories of what happens. But yeah, the pandemic hit, and myself and my business partner reacted in very different ways and had different views on how to kind of cope with the challenges ahead. And ultimately, it led to him wanting to part ways, go off and do his own thing. My view, obviously, it probably wasn't the most ideal time for for us to be discussing kind of parting ways, because there was kind of greater challenges and kind of more important things to be doing than sort of slicing up the business. But yeah, nevertheless, like I was kind of left having to deal with that challenge on Fintelligent on my own. Very, very lucky to have an excellent business partner on Leaders, Mike, who if it wasn't for him and also your efforts, Alison, it might have been a different story. But pandemic hit, and I've always had a bit of a plan of having 2 businesses, having interviewed lots and lots of great people over the years who've had businesses, and it's went a bit south. I've always been very, very acutely aware that something could come along outside of my control and pull the rug, completely under your feet. So my kind of plan in this eventuality was we flip the business and we train everybody up to recruit nurses. So we had 2 days to do that because of the enforced sort of working from home restrictions. We gave everybody a crash course on Fintelligent, or J2 at the time, in recruiting nurses, we flipped the business and tried to kind of keep things going, because our markets collapsed overnight. I think in that first lockdown we had kind of one job on, and then obviously the tricky situation, you've got one half of the partnership that wishes to leave, go off and do their own thing, having to kind of negotiate a suitable exit for everybody during that time was was a distraction that we probably didn't need.
And if I can just cut in there for the benefit of anyone who's listening and who runs a business in partnership, I have 2 words for you: shareholders agreement. Okay, now, in common with lots of partner shareholders, you didn't have a written agreement, I think, at the time with your former business partner. So, guys, anyone who's listening who's in that position, please, please, please do something about this, because nobody saw the pandemic coming, did they?
No, and I think those two words are tattooed on my body somewhere now. Like, definitely tattooed into my memory. But no, myself and my former business partner, we were really, really close. We were like two peas in a pod at one point. But times change, people change, you drift apart, and then obviously a massive sort of stress event like that comes along, we both had different opinions um, on how best to best to deal with it. So, essentially, as part of the agreement, he went off. He took some people with him. I had some people who remained with me. But ultimately, I had the original business, which now has a global pandemic, double the costs, half the people, and being really honest, like little chance of success. One of the things I think quite good at is if I look at something for long enough, I can usually find a solution. So looked at ways we could kind of save money, and it seemed a bit fruitless. We had leaders, so I was confident that we could kind of keep things going. For as long as necessary. But I came to the conclusion, had a little bit of a moment where I thought, we're not going anywhere. We're going to sell our way out of this crisis, because we definitely can't save our way out of it. And I came to the conclusion that the best way to kind of rise like a phoenix from the ashes was to reinvent the business, change some of the sectors. So we used to do financial services, commercial, which is very generalist, and energy, which is just a sexy way of saying smart meter fitters, wrong end of the energy market entirely. So we binned off the smart meter side of the business. We focused exclusively on financial services, particularly kind of sales and back office roles within financial services, and also went out there and convinced some superstars to join my rapidly sort of sinking ship, and did that by presenting a clear vision and by being completely honest, because I think that's really important, being completely honest, and also making it clear what was in it for them, should they join me on this kind of high risk mission. And today the business is flying, and we're doing really well in all three of those markets. And it's an entirely different. It's effectively a startup business that's been going for a year and a half, because there wasn't a great deal sort of left in the kind of rubble after the pandemic and the exit.
But it was, in fact, the perfect opportunity to rebrand the business, and the Fintelligent brand has been really well launched, in my view. So, look, particularly in 2020, a lot of people who run recruitment businesses and those who report to them discovered what their true values were. So, how you react in an unforeseen crisis very often is shows people's true colours as a leader. And there were some who literally just closed up shop, made everybody redundant, sent everybody home and hoped to sit it out. And that proved it was going to be a longer wait. And there were others who saw an opportunity and so forth. So could you just talk to us about what you discovered about your values as a leader?
Yeah, sure. So I think like that period in time, looking back on it, whilst it's probably taken at least 5 years off off my life, that period in time was really important in I guess forming me as a leader. Obviously, led people before, and had two businesses that were doing well at the time. But I think sometimes in times of times of crisis and times of failure, you really learn a great deal about yourself and have to do kind of a lot of soul searching. I think when COVID hit, like, nobody was prepared for that, and suddenly you've gone from a business that's doing really, really well, generating good revenue, to no jobs, no clients, and these people who rely on you, who look to you as a leader, asking how they're going to pay the mortgages, and really feeling kind of desperate. And I remember thinking, at the time, I don't know whether anyone can relate to this, but I'm not I'm not the right person to be kind of sat here doing this. I've not got, I've never led a company through a global crisis. It's not, I'm almost kind of, in the same position as everyone else. Like, but something that I kind of realized is, I'm in the chair. Like, do you know what I mean? At this time, time, fate, whatever, I'm the person who's at the helm, and who's leading the organisation. So whether you're ready, whether you are the right person or not, time has chosen you. And I think in those circumstances, you either step up and rise to the occasion and do, a really good job, or you fold. And like, I'm really proud, like, to say that I believe I really stepped up. Nobody was going to get made redundant, from our businesses unless we absolutely had to. On very, very short notice, I came up with a plan, to be able to keep, regardless of the furlough scheme, to be able to keep as many people in jobs as we could by flipping the business. And yeah, I just think that the level of emotional support you give people, people needed kind of inspiring, like, because let's face it, we were all pretty low during that time, and we needed people to work their socks off to keep our business alive, and keep what we've all worked so hard to have alive. Like, so I guess kind of what I'm saying is, in a time of absolute crisis, you always, I think all good leaders have, a reflective people, probably have a bit of self-doubt, are trying to improve themselves constantly. And only in like a really extreme situation, did I guess, find out how, how good I can respond to that. And like, by kind of reinventing kind of one business, and the growth that myself and Michael, my co-director, have had, within Leaders in Care, and how we've kind of sort of maximised the opportunity there. I feel really kind of confident in my abilities as a leader, I guess. So I think that whole period in time, in terms of my confidence, and knowing what you can achieve, I kind of developed a lot during that period, I feel.
Yes, and I can say as an observer that you absolutely did, and managed to. Well, you must have been exhausted. You did manage to stay calm for the people who were leaning on you. So one thing that I remember particularly that really impressed me was that in lockdown one, when home working was, a novelty, you and Mike had particular success in keeping up the normal pace of work when people were working remotely. Anything you'd like to share about how you did that?
Yeah, so I guess sort of we pride ourselves on being quite forward thinking, and would like to think, we're very much kind of, whether we are or we aren't, we try and be at like the leading edge of things in terms of our culture and how we treat our employees. So we were already doing some homework, and it was for seniors and above. So not for everybody. I think that idea may have terrified us, like, pre-pandemic. But our natural instinct is to trust people. I don't believe that trust needs to be earned. I believe that you give trust straight away, but you also emphasize the importance of what that trust stands for. Do you know what I mean? And how important that trust is. And if that trust gets broken, kind of the consequences of that. But I think you trust people from day one. So So yeah, our culture is one of trust, and where we give people responsibility, and yeah, we kind of laid out quite clearly like what we needed everybody to do, what the expectations were, how much support we were prepared to give everyone. We showed people that we genuinely cared about them, and I kind of believe like leadership in recruitment, but probably in general, it's all about hearts and minds. You've got to have the hearts and minds of people, and we had like a sort of siege mentality at that time. The world is literally against us with kind of COVID. The odds are against us, but we're not gonna lay down our kind of sword and shield and fade into the background. We're gonna go for it, and we're gonna make it happen. And everybody, I think, felt a sense of duty to each other and to the business to do their very best. However, with that, with all the challenges that you have, like we had to keep people motivated, because I think that was hard for a lot of people, particularly when the times were so challenging. So, making sure that we had that regular contact, we were there for people, we were confidant, counsellor, as well as sort of, leader and manager. But yeah, kind of, I guess sort of a lot of it all stemmed from the culture that we've created, and kind of the level of trust and support that we were prepared to give.
Absolutely. And if I can just interject, one of the things that regular listeners will have heard me speak about before is having a crisis plan. So nobody could have planned for the exact circumstances of the pandemic, how it would affect people, how long the lockdowns would be and so forth. But it is possible to plan for a financial crisis, isn't it? And that means like doing a bit of game planning, if you will, in terms of budget, and so that there isn't a panic when a crisis does hit. Now, you did a really quick flip in getting people from Fintelligent, or Fintelligent as is now, into work at resourcing nurses on leaders in care, which was a really smart way of doing things, and carried those people through until there was business again for Intelligent Search. The idea of having not just cost saving, but alternative deployment of people if the market turns is really well worth thinking out while the sun's shining, isn't it? And that can include doing like what would we do if our net profit fell below this? What would we do if this market died? How would we redeploy people, rather than the panic that sets in? And I've always found that if you go along to the average recruitment leaders networking meeting, if you're starting to feel a bit of a chill breeze, it often happens that people are putting out feelers, going, "Yeah, I think the market's getting a bit tighter. What do you think?" And a lot of other people will go, "No, I'm doing great, mate. It's all fine." And so you think it's only you, and you delay taking action, but your action in your businesses was swift and very effective. Okay, now you just before we move on to how leaders need to be different after the pandemic, I'm noticing right behind you, you've got the is that the Fintelligent values you've got on the wall behind you?
Yeah, no, it is indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did during some of the quieter periods was we actually did a whole values discovery exercise for both businesses, didn't we? Do you want to just talk about that briefly? Why it was the right time? And
I'll talk about it briefly, but just something that I think is important to say as well. So I think like any half decent leader, you should always look to. I don't know everything. Like I don't know everything, and I think you've got to look to people who add value to you and will help you grow. And one of the reasons why I reached out to you when we were sort of 7-8 people, we've got grand designs to grow both businesses into massive businesses. I've never done that before, and I wanted an advisor who was going to help me navigate myself round some of those traps and pitfalls that I'd probably fall into if I did it alone. And luckily, when the pandemic hit, you gave up a lot of your time during that period for free for us, which I'll be eternally
Don't be
grateful.
telling other people that.
No, absolutely, but yeah, one of the things that we did during that time, vision and values are really important. I think even more so with the generation of today. In conjunction with yourself, Alison, we sat down as a whole company, a day-long exercise, and defined, what are our values, what are we about, why are we, why are we kind of, who we are, and yeah, not so much just like words on the wall, but actual things that you have someone come into the business and they can coherently explain. These are our values. These are why. We have these values, and this is the way we do things here.
And anyone who wants to know more details about those values can find them on your websites, can't they? Okay, so post-pandemic, it seems to me that there's a different set of expectations on leaders everywhere. But thinking about recruitment post-pandemic, I mean, there's also been like Me Too and Black Lives Matter and a number of other big, how can I put it, ground shifts. But what do you think are the most important things for recruitment leaders to start doing, stop doing, or do differently in general?
So I think that currently, with the current generation of recruiters that we've got coming through, it's an entirely different generation. Generation that's grown up on social media, probably has a different set of values and things that are important to them than maybe my generation, your generation. And I think you, as a leader, you've got to adapt. You've got to kind of preach to your to your audience, what they want and where their heart is. I think leadership of this generation of people, you've got to have a lot of empathy. They want someone who genuinely cares for them. Their kind of whole self, not just it's not just kind of. I think gone are the days where companies can burn and churn through people, and be sort of really rigid in the rules that they set out. I think anyone who doesn't have a relaxed, flexible culture that gives people, gives people trust, and gives people flexibility, are going to really struggle to recruit people. I also think that like this generation in particular, they want more from their work than just I want loads of money, or like a ski trip kind of once every 12 months. People want purpose and vision, and to feel like they are part of something. I think, as a leader, if you want to get the best out of people, you've got to have a really, really clear vision that's conveyed to people. And you've also got to, as I said before, like, it's about hearts and minds. And if you've got people's hearts, they will run through walls for you. When there's a crisis, they will respond for you. And they will do it with a smile on their face, in a very, very determined way. But you can only get people's hearts by genuinely caring about them, and treating them really well. We've got a culture where we like to say yes to things like, oh well, if someone comes with a bit of a request, I've worked in businesses before where the answer is, oh, we can't do it for one, because everyone would want, we'd have to do it for everyone if we did that. And our approach is, I guess, intrinsically different, because we will be flexible. We will give people sort of special treatment, but we'll give everyone special treatment. If they're putting the work in, if there's someone who's working really hard for our cause. Our staff retention, we've lost maybe 3 people on leaders in in the best part of 3 years. You've got to make people feel like they belong and like they're part of something and they're listened to and they're valued. And you've got to do that in your own skin authentically. So
no, not much expectation there then. But I just wanted to make really clear to listeners that when you talk about, leading with love, being flexible, trusting people, let's not make the mistake that there isn't a high performing culture in your businesses. There absolutely is, isn't there? And where I see recruitment business leaders often sort of half hearing this message is they get that they have to, be a listening leader and so forth. But how they sometimes respond is they literally just fall over, and the vision piece is lost. So they say yes to everything. They don't take steps when somebody's performance is going way off beam. They think, well, I'll just leave them alone. And the truth is that very often people then work themselves into a downward spiral. So it absolutely remains a high performing culture because people feel part of, as you said, part of something bigger, and that they're central to performance, that the business needs them as much as they need the business. Yeah.
100%. And whilst I've laid out kind of what I guess our philosophy is. Like the other side of that, you're absolutely right, Alison. We are a high performance culture. The expectations here are probably higher than in most agencies in terms of performance. Everybody gets all the tools, probably more tools than they need to do the job. And whilst we're kind and we give people purpose, we also don't take we don't suffer fools as well. Like if people abuse our culture or aren't showing the behaviours, the values, or the level of performance that it expects, it's not tolerated, and not just by me, by the other people out there, because it's a privilege to work here. I wish when I was before I started up my own business, I wish I worked somewhere like this. It's a great place to work, and with that comes a level of responsibility on you to kind of do the business and behave in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so last question is specifically about internal hiring. So it's been a huge struggle for many recruitment businesses as their markets stepped up again, to hire people. And in many cases, listeners will have heard me talking about the extraordinary pay inflation that I've observed without productivity growing in many recruitment businesses. So you've been very successful in that regard. Just maybe 2 or 3 points. What do you think are the main reasons for that success?
So 2 or 3 points. Probably can't put it in 2 or 3 points, but I guess sort of when all the proverbial hit the fan with Fintelligent, and was thinking, what do I do? One of the things that I'm really good at, there's things I'm all right at and everything, but one of the things I'm really good at is convincing very, very good people who are very happy in their jobs at their current employers to come and join me. So that was a skill that really kind of helped in terms of the rebirth of Fintelligent. To give you listeners a bit of context, we've probably hired in the past 12 months, I don't know, maybe like 10 sort of 200k plus sort of billers. Maybe more. Like we regularly have people coming in from rec to recs. They'll be out with sort of five other agencies. If we make an offer, I can't remember the last time we made an offer to someone where we were competing and it wasn't accepted. I guess sort of few points. So culturally, you've got to have a great place to work. You've got to have a commission structure that is, rewards people well, and is at very least kind of in line with the market value. But I believe as a leader, one of your main jobs is, you are the person with the vision. It's your company. Hiring rock star recruiters is just as important as getting on the phone, going and doing business development, going to client meetings. If you can hire a brilliant recruiter, then particularly from one of your competitors, you've got the billings that come with that. You potentially got new clients once restrictions have expired. You've also then got an advocate for your business who is people talk, don't they? Oh, how's it going? Oh, it's brilliant. You've got somebody who will say nice things to a pool of talent in a different business. And I think if you want to take internal recruitment seriously, you've got to get your hands dirty. So you can't sit back and let your internal recruiter just manage it, or just let the Rectorex send you loads of people. You've got to get your hands dirty and do it yourself. So I will approach people. I will keep in touch with people. I will be there for the moment when they maybe don't have the best day and do start to consider looking for something. And I make sure that I'm, front of mind. I would also say that Rectorex sometimes have a bit of a bad name. I have made it a real priority to have excellent relationships with some of the Rectorex that I regard as excellent out there. Not all recruitment agencies or Rectorex are born equally. And I think having good agency partners, as any sales leader, having good agency partners who will alert you to talented people who come on the market, and you have a good relationship with them, so they will sell and position your business, hopefully as well as you do, if you do a good job into putting that time and effort.
It's a good point. And that relationship takes investment, doesn't it? I mean, obviously they need to be genuinely skilled and committed, but if you invest the time so they can genuinely promote your brand, just like we would say about our own relationship as recruiters with clients, as you say. So just to summarize, most important points there. Number one, it's a continuous effort, not just I'm looking for someone now. Number two, it's personal. You as leader are absolutely hands-on with it. It's not a process handled by someone else. And number three, get advocates, internal and external. I think there's some really strong points there. And I'm really sorry, because we could, and you and I regularly do, go on chatting for hours, but I think we've run out of time. Listeners, you've been listening to the Recruitment Leadership podcast. Anyone who's interested in having a chat, no commitment, with James about a career at Fintelligent or Leaders in Care should get in touch with him at James?
James at leadersincare.co.uk. Drop me an email. I'm always up for having just a conversation with people. And if you're not looking, even if you're just a little bit curious, let's go for a drink, go for a coffee. It's good to get to know someone for the time when they might be looking.
Thank you, James. A really fascinating guest. Thank you for making time to do this. James has been kind enough to mention just some of the things that we've done as I've worked with him as a non-exec director. If you're interested in exploring how that relationship might work for your business, do get in touch with me, Alison at recruitmentleadership.co.uk. Thank you for listening. Please do join us again when I'll be interviewing another leader in the recruitment sector. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Recruitment Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, review and share so that others can find the podcast too. We really appreciate your support. If you have any questions about the topics covered or wish to find out more about recruitment leadership, please email Alison at recruitmentleadership.co.uk, referencing the podcast. We're also on LinkedIn, where you can follow Recruitment Leadership and connect with Alison Humphries. Thank you for listening, and we hope you join us next time for another episode of the Recruitment Leadership Podcast.